Hey everyone, welcome back to the range. My name is Matt, also known as the King of Armor Destruction, the Armor Wizard, Zap. We have a body armor demo today, likely maybe the last one that we're going to get done for 2024 because it is becoming winter and cold and it's not fun dragging all this stuff around. But from Militech, this is their new NIJ 07 RF1 plate. It is a pure 100% through and through ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, or polyethylene plate for short. Let's throw this guy on the table and talk about what we're going to do today. Now, in full transparency, Militech sent these plates for me to demo with no strings attached. I do have an affiliate set up with them and a discount code that is in the description below, so that if you do decide to make a purchase with them, I earn a small sales commission off that. And what I do with that is I put it right back in the channel by buying either more body armor to test or different calibers or some of this obscure armor piercing ammunition. This particular 10x12 plate weighs 2.38 pounds or 1.08 kilograms. As I mentioned, it is 100% through and through polyethylene, so these are going to be lighter plates, but they may not stop our M855. It is 1.030 inches thick or 26.16 millimeters. It is multi-curve. You can see all those nice sexy curves right there and right there as well. Militech does list this as a 10x12 plate or 250 by 300 millimeters. And from the best guess with my tape measure, it is very true to size. I'll have to start marking this little square when we measure plates that are listed as their specifications and they come out to that measurement or somewhere close to it. Now, here comes the long-winded speech. Over here on my channel, we do all of our body armor demos completely different than everyone else on YouTube because we're after worst case scenario. As a guy, I want you guys to have confidence in this particular personal protection equipment if you do decide to use it in any kind of roles. Since this is rifle armor, we shoot at 45 feet. We also shoot at 0 degrees again because that is worst case scenario. Since this plate does not employ a ceramic strike face, there is no need to drop it on his face 2 times as a preconditioning test. We use a giant clay briefcase filled with Roma Plastilina #1 clay from Chavant, and that acts as our compressible media to put the body armor up against, and it's like 90 pounds and it keeps it from flying everywhere because you want to make sure you solidly mount these panels when you're testing them. Now, the NIJ will heat that clay up to like 100 degrees and they drop this giant 2.5-inch ball on it, stainless steel, and they measure the dimple and it has to be like 19 millimeters from 6 feet or something. It's only 50 to 55 degrees outside today. I can't do that out here and keep it up to temperature, so we're looking at a representation. If we stop our M80 ball in this plate and it has a dimple of like 60 to 70 millimeters, and the NIJ's eyes, that would be failing. We use a chronograph whenever possible. We have a ProChronoPal Digital DLX as well as a Garmin 0C1. I have 2 data sets, and that way if one of them fails, usually we have the other one as a backup. And that ensures that when I'm using M80 ball at the NIJ spec, we have that instant feedback to know that I'm not downloading or uploading ammunition to give you guys any false performance aspects. We also put a spreadsheet here at the beginning and the end. We kind of foreshadow all the threats that we're going to shoot at it. In the end, we mark our penetrations and our velocities, and we do a teardown. Although since this is a 100% pure polyethylene plate, there's probably not going to be a lot inside that's different than what we already know. And finally, I want to remind everyone that I'm not an NIJ lab, so if you see a threat stopped or penetrated, you should always defer to the manufacturer to produce accredited and recent lab results showing those stoppages, especially our standard NIJ threats. And on the flip side, if you're the manufacturer and you see me stop a threat that you don't have listed, you should send that off to a lab and have that added as a special rifle threat to your panel. Plate #1 is strapped in and ready to go. We've been rained on all day. Hopefully everything is ready to go. Clay has been heating up. The light screen may not work. We do have the lights on it, so we have the Garmin as a backup. We have our 145 to 150 grain full metal jacket. This is Lake City Winchester M80 ball. This particular lot has a magnetic jacket or has some kind of steel component in it that attracts a magnet, and it could be argued that that particular jacket is a little harder to deal with than a copper or brass. This should be right in the center. 2768, 2754, 2772. Easy enough. Shot #1, 2, and then 3. Those are considered fair hits. We'll have to see how this holds up to some of our other threats. Place those bets in the comments below. No pass-throughs, folks. Now, it actually looks like we might have started to destroy some of the material on this plate, and I would say we've bunched that up down there fairly well. And for a representation of back face, that guy right there is going to be it. Not too bad, right around 38 millimeters. Try that again. It's hard because I need to get some kind of arm that goes to the edge and then measure this, but not too shabby. This guy down here may be a worst case scenario. That one's 47 millimeters. The clay is pretty darn warm. I detect a very thick foam on the back here. Our first shot, back face wise, barely even left a little dimple there. Interesting. We'll see what we can sling at this and get it to fail. Now let's go to our 5.56 threats. This is where it's going to get a little bit dicey. This is 100% pure polyethylene plate, and any type of hardened materials like steel and sometimes even brass, these plates tend not to do very well against. There are a lot of higher end polyethylenes that can stop some of these threats, but generally speaking, when you involve any hardened steel, they win. So we've got our M855, this is our 62 grain lead core with a steel penetrating tip. We've got M855A1, that is the U.S. Army's current issue ball round all the way down to basic. It is the enhanced performance round, has a larger and harder steel penetrating tip. Now, what's special about these is they are loaded subsonic, meaning that they should be under 10 or 1130 feet per second. So this would be essentially like 700-800 yards downrange. And then of course we've got our 55 grain M193 that is known for popping steel, but polyethylene tends to stop it. We'll save that for the longer barrel length. .3388, .3356, .3382, .3300. This one's easy enough, although this material is very hard to write on. Our M855A1 sub number 1 and then number 2. Then our M855 10.5 inch number 1 and number 2. Then our M193 number 1, 2, 3, and then 4. That is very close to the edge, and that is technically not a fair hit because it is about an inch. Although, like I said, with polyethylene, it is good at taking multi shots as long as the bullet construction isn't hampering that. Place those bets in the comments below. I don't have a helper hand right now. Oh, R.A.N.G.E. We have a penetration from that edge shot of M193, as well as both shots of our M855. We'll check the subs, but it looks like they penetrated based on that. We'll pull this back cover off here in a second and see. At this point, this is just helping with our blunt force trauma, so we don't really need it on there. But otherwise, it's not doing too shabby, but it looks like we're starting to delaminate and bunch up those layers. Just to confirm, both shots of M855 penetrated, as well as that non-fair hit of M183. Our edge shot looks like it was stopped. We may take a follow-up shot, as well as both of our subsonic M855A1s penetrated. And typically in the past, those are hard to stop unless this entire structure is made of polyethylene. Like I said, we have that foam on the back. We are starting to delaminate the layers. We'll have to pick some threats on this plate and move on to number 2. All right, let's see if this plate can stop our Russian 5.45 by 39 millimeters. This is our 24-inch SSG 82 bolt action. Very, very unique gun. We've got 2 rounds of our 7N6. This is 52 grains with a mild steel penetrating core. Pretty darn long. Generally speaking, a lot of our polyethylene plates can stop this particular variant, not the modernized one with the hardened core. 3108, 2974. Shot number 1 and then shot number 2. That one's about 1.5 inches from that, but I think we've compromised quite a bit of this plate, so we're going to go to plate number 2 for the rest of our threats. Oh, R.A.N.G.E. We have penetration from one of those 7N6 bullets. Now that was the faster of the 2, so that could be the limit of this particular plate. And again, we've compromised it. And with RF1, you only have to stop a 3-hit pattern on the plates, but then they require more plates to then vary that 3-shot pattern. We're all wet, but we're gonna do plate number 2. We brought out a 7.62 by 3.9. This is 123 grain full metal jacket, mild steel core. This is East German surplus. A big thank you to War Pig Armory. He has quite the collection of unique ammunition. If you're looking to get anything from him, totally don't use the discount code Buffman for a little bit of cheddar off some of those rounds. We've got a 20-inch SKS here. Ooh, even faster. I shot that one way too high, folks. All right, let's try again. 2486. Now to bring out the new spicy boy. This is the U.S. Army's next generation squad weapon. The M7, I think, is what the official designation will be. This is our SIG MCX Spear in 6.8 by 51 millimeters or 277 Fury. This guy's claim to fame is 80,000 PSI case pressure per SAMI approval. Typically, most Magnum cartridges top out at 65,000 PSI. We have our 113 grain solid copper bullet here. This is the reduced range ammunition. Now it's not reduced pressure. SIG said this is right around 75 to 80,000 PSI, halfway in between there, and it's supposed to mimic a similar trajectory as the general purpose round, which is 1186, the GP round. 3203. 3212, smoking fast, folks. I did forget to mention this has a 16-inch barrel. Now we'll step up to our 22 caliber ludicrous speed 22 Creedmoor. Effectively, this is a neck down 6mm Creedmoor case to accept 22 caliber bullets. Normally we're looking at our 80 grain and heavier loads, but because this has a 1-in-7 twist, I can shoot some of our military loadings out of it. This 18-inch upper is from KAK Industries. A big thank you to them for letting me mess with this for the last year. This has been an absolute solid upper. So we have 3 rounds of M193 right here. 3667. Oh, that's fast, guys. 3716, wowzers. 3757, woo! We're losing daylight, folks, but I think I have one more threat after this. So our mild steel core 7.62 by 3.9, number 1, number 2, actually that was number 3, number 2 was way up there. That's not a fair hit. Then our 6.8 RRA, number 1 and number 2. Then our 22 Creedmoor, number 1, 2, and then 3. I don't think the light screen is reading. Place those bets in the comments below. Oh, Raggy. We have penetrations from both of our 22 Creedmoors, as well as both of our 6.8 rounds. This 22 Creedmoor was stopped, and our mild steel core that were considered fair hits were stopped. Interesting. All right, I think the last threat should be pretty valid for this plate. Okay, our final threat, we're gonna go way down in velocity. We've got our 8.6 black. I have been developing random loads over the last, I don't know, year and a half, finding different .338 caliber projectiles to test against types of soft and or hard armor. This particular caliber's claim to fame is its 1-in-3 twist barrel. It looks like a drill bit when you look through there. So I've got 4 shots if we need them. This is a 300 grain A-tip from Hornady. So it's a lead core with a little aluminum tip on it. These should be Subsonic if I did my homework right. This is a 12-inch with a Q pork chop on here. 957. Our final 4 shots of our 8.6 black, number 1, 2, 3, and then 4. I stacked 2 of those right on top of each other. Help her hand place those bets kind of slow. No pass-through, folks. That particular bullet design cannot defeat that many layers of polyethylene. Paging Dr. Matt to surgery. Paging Dr. Matt to surgery. Now, for a fan favorite, the teardown. That's where we get to look at the guts of this plate. But since this is 100% pure polyethylene, there's not a lot to look at. So we've got a rear blunt force trauma foam on there, 380 thousandths thick. Always, in my opinion, I would have this kind of amount and replace it with more layers of polyethylene. Although it seems to do its job controlling backface, some of those larger threats just kind of eat it away. So here is the rear of our plate. Our penetrations were as marked, no additional penetrations. I measured this polyethylene right around 610 thousandths. Off camera, we did take a shot of our solid copper 8.6 black because I remembered that I had some here. This is 285 grain, and literally it didn't even get very far and just bent over. Sometimes, depending on how well pressed the polyethylene is or isn't, that bullet can get itself through. Otherwise, it does appear to be pressed. It's still rigid, but the amount of muzzle energy caused it to delaminate. Typically, when you get into thicker polyethylene plates, they don't tend to delaminate as easily. You can see we kind of bunched up those corners. Here is the covering on the front of our strike face. It's an aramid or Kevlar fiber. Measure that right around 10 thousandths. This just helps assemble the plate and probably stick the cover to it, and it may offer some fragmentation mitigation for any bullets that don't get into the polyethylene. I do like that Militech always puts the foam on the outer edge of the plate to protect it against any bumps, although since this is polyethylene, that's really not an issue there. Otherwise, there's the front of our plate. Here is plate number 1. We started to pull that away down there in the corner, and I think some of the penetrations that resulted over here were likely because we weakened this part of the plate and started pulling it away. Otherwise, I think for a polyethylene plate, this did rather well. Again, they have a limitation of bullet construction, but they are good at stopping a lot of speed like our M193. And that's all she wrote, folks. Well, everyone, it's getting cold outside, so let's wrap this up and stick a bow on it. But our Militech RF1 plates did rather well for a 100% pure polyethylene plate. Again, as I've mentioned various times throughout the video, they are good at multi-hits and stopping types of bullets that don't have hardened bullet construction, and they can deal with a lot of speed. But anytime we introduce hardened materials like our M855 or M855A1, or even some solid copper projectiles moving at fast enough velocity, those types of materials tend to lose out. I was quite surprised by our new 6.8 reduced range ammunition. That 113 grain solid copper round was able to push through this polyethylene. There are varying different use cases that you may see for a 100% pure polyethylene plate. Maybe you're near a large body of water and you need that neutral buoyancy and ability to float and swim without the armor weighing you down, so that could be a good use case. Or if you're in a type of area where your most common threats are going to be non-steel core or even pistols, having these lighter weight plates will allow you to be more mobile. With all that being said, it's time for me to get the heck out of here. But at the end of all my videos, I take a moment to thank all those who help make these possible, because there's a lot that goes into them. Number one is my family. Deacon and Amy are out here helping whenever they can. Deacon would like to remind you all to like, subscribe, and share so we can get that engagement algorithm from YouTube working for us, so we can get more people exposed to this content. Number two are my Patreon, Subscribe Star, and YouTube channel members. I have a campsite in the description below with those affiliate links or discount tracking codes. I do have one for Militech, so if you're looking to make a purchase from the US website, that discount code saves you a little bit of cheddar and it earns me a little bit of cheddar, and what I do with that is I put it right back in the channel. You probably can guess how much that SIG MCX spear cost me, and I pretty much bought that to review and to use on the channel to see how that new cartridge will fare against body armor and different types of barriers. Number three is Militech, again in full transparency, sent me those 100% pure polyethylene RF1 plates to destroy with no strings attached. And of course, number four is you all for watching. Until next time, I'll catch you at the range.